A House Public Safety Committee listened to an interim study this week dealing with investigations of abandoned vehicles in relation to cold cases. ONR's Ed Murray reports what started out as a citizen's request has become a personal mission for one lawmaker.
This is a subject that is dear to my heart.
When State Representative Ross Ford was elected 2 years ago, one of the first people he met was Christina Ritzhop. Ross invited her to address this study via Skype to talk about her mother, Tracy Samuels, who disappeared 26 years ago, 2 days before Christina's 9th birthday.
Her hair was wrapped in a towel, yelling out the door how she loved me and would pick me up after school that day. That is the last vivid memory I have of her to this date, before sitting outside of my school for 3 hours waiting on her to never pick me up.
Her mother's truck was found abandoned in West Tulsa, but it wasn't searched for evidence. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary to police, including Officer Ross Ford.
I was at that apartment complex when we recovered her vehicle. And so we followed our policy from the police department 100%. You know, we ran the vehicle. There was no warrants for the vehicle. There was nothing.
Retired Tulsa Police Sergeant Mike Huff now runs an all-volunteer cold case task force. He believes multi-jurisdiction boundaries are still an issue, like they were back in 1993.
Linpool took the case, and I don't think they even knew about the truck for some time. It was hard to connect the dots, and so we failed Tracy.
Connecting the dots. It's a mission for both Ross and Christina.
I feel like if there was a policy in place to help with the loss of an abandoned vehicle, perhaps I wouldn't even be reading this to you today.
Representative Ross didn't arrive armed with a rough draft bill full of solutions. Instead, he asked the experts around the tables to brainstorm with him.
Everything starts with training for local law enforcement.
Training to identify different categories of missing persons, from runaways to the endangered. Highway Patrol Captain Ronnie Hampton.
When you think about it, it would be critical to just how we respond the moment that we drive up upon a car that's parked on the highway. For something that where CLEAT puts out and says, here's missing persons categories, now we need to train everybody on this. My opinion would need to be legislatively done for it to take effect amongst 500 different law enforcement agencies around the state.
But Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation General Counsel Richard Smotherman knows the task is daunting. Numbers he provided show 63,000 cars impounded in Oklahoma last year. The total through October 3rd of this year, more than 45,000.
The number we're talking about is staggering, so that would cause some significant issues. So you have to find a way to narrow the field as to what gets worked and what doesn't.
Issues like the cost involved in processing those vehicles and the need, once they are towed, for proper, secure storage areas.
If you raise the standards where everybody has to have, a really nice building, the problem is in rural areas there aren't enough wreckers already. Western Oklahoma doesn't have enough wreckers. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the cost, because the state nor municipalities give wreckers any money at all.
Discussions also included funding and legislative action for better collaboration between agencies, timely data entries, and standardized methods for processing evidence. The National Missing and Unidentified Person System, NamUs, shows there are currently about 930 missing persons entered in Oklahoma, with 25% of those entries mentioning a vehicle. The panel heard why getting this right is so important from Dr. Maggie Zingman, trauma psychologist, and mother of Brittany Phillips, a cold case victim from 2004.
She came back to Tulsa and moved into apartments next to Union High School, and she was murdered in the middle of the night. This can happen to anyone.
Just last week, the OSBI solved a 24-year-old Wagner County cold case using new technology to run old DNA, obtained from an abandoned truck. Ed Murray, the Oklahoma News Report.
Now, some manpower issues at OSBI are being addressed as the agency is currently working to hire 20 agents to positions that had been frozen.